Hey, what's up? This is Andy Hurley from Fall Out Boy, and you're listening to The Expansion Project.
Welcome back to another episode of the Expansion Project podcast. I am your host, Fat Tony, and on this show, I have casual yet deep conversations with professional athletes, entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, bloggers, investors, musicians, and anybody else that I find to be either successful or just plain interesting. And why do I do this? Well, the hope is that I will expand my mind and yours while motivating and inspiring people along the way. My guest today is Jerry Lamigo, founder and CEO of WODshop.com. After working for companies like Apple and Adobe, Jerry left behind the 9-to-5 world in 2010 to fill a void in an industry that he was passionate about and create a one-stop shop for all the best functional fitness products. Jerry and I talked about personal development and shaping your mind for success. I asked him about the different seminars and mastermind groups that he attends to help him keep on the up and up, and we found out that we actually have a lot more in common than we originally thought. I also picked his brain about his online retail business. I asked him about the company's core values, some specific marketing strategies, and his competition out there. I even asked Jerry who his biggest CrossFit crush was, and by the time this airs, Jerry will have actually gotten married to his longtime girlfriend and fiance, so congrats to him. But nonetheless, I think you guys will get a kick out of the answer to that question. Now, I was really excited to do this interview and get to know Jerry a bit better, and I'm super pumped to share the conversation with you guys. Before I welcome my guest today, I want to thank you guys for the great feedback and for sharing the show with a friend. After all, that's the only marketing the show has, so thanks for that. Also, thanks to everyone who left 5-star ratings over on iTunes and left reviews on iTunes. I'm going to continue to read some of the best reviews here on the show, and with that said, I'm going to read you what Sealess John 2013 posted. He said, "I really enjoyed the podcast. I grew up riding BMX in the late 90s all the way to the present time. The Kevin Robin interview was so inspirational. Keep up the good work." So thanks to Sealess John for that one. And if you guys want to listen to the K-Rob interview, he talks about all the many hats he wears, and he just drops a lot of positivity. So that is episode 13 if you want to go check out that one and download that episode. Also, just a reminder to go check out theexpansionprojectpodcast.com and click on the affiliate links. They're on the right side of the page. If you buy some stuff through those links, you're going to help out the show. Now, I'll welcome my guest, Jerry Lamigo. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So the first day that I met you, I felt a pretty cool connection with you because it just seemed like we had really similar outlooks on a lot of things, and it seemed like we kind of had similar mindsets. And that first day that we met, you mentioned several things that made it pretty obvious to me that you were into kind of personal growth and development and finance and things like that. So I want to know, for you, where did that journey of sort of personal development begin? And I'll start with just a very quick story of myself. For me, the catalyst was a breakup. You know, I dated a girl for a long time, and when we broke up, it was either like, okay, this is either going to destroy me, or I need to like become a better person so that I can find the next girl of my dreams. You know, so that was the catalyst for me going on this personal journey. So I'm curious if you had anything like that in your life that was sort of the turning point for you, or was just this ingrained in you from day one?
No, I mean, I've had several times in my life where I've come through different challenges, but I think one of the things that helped me get started with starting my business and along this personal development journey was getting sick and tired of working for companies that I felt like where I felt like I was a kind of a small fish in a big pond, and didn't have much impact, and I decided to kind of create my own business with a few friends of mine. And so yeah, it was just being sick and tired of being sick and tired, that saying, right?
Yeah, okay, got it. So nowadays, are there any books or documentaries or anything else that you do to kind of help, build this mindset of yours?
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. He's all about the online marketing and social media stuff. I've done a lot of work with Tony Robbins. I've been to several Tony Robbins events. I'm part of a personal development group called Titanium, where they do like a live event, and then they do kind of like mastermind groups along the way between the events. And I'm part of there are several, you could say, mastermind groups. There's an e-commerce one and other business one that I'm a part of. So, yeah, definitely try to surround myself with people like yourself and people that are always trying to take themselves to the next level. Personal growth is a big part of my life.
Yeah. So explain to me these mastermind groups, kind of what it looks like when you're there and what you get out of it and stuff. Because I've heard people talk about it and I understand the concept, but I've personally never been to something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So kind of paint me a picture of what it's like.
Sure, yeah. The whole idea of the mastermind group for me started when I read Think and Grow Rich. And, you know, Napoleon Hill was talking about that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? With by emotions, by finances, just in general. And so when I first moved to Southern California, it was difficult for me to find other people besides that were into CrossFit. So that was kind of my gateway into meeting other people. But I was like, I need to find people that are into business as well. So I started pursuing other ways I could meet people, like meetup.com. Got in touch with some online marketing people. And just got really involved with the CrossFit community themselves, because a lot of them are pretty cool people. I mean, you're part of the community, and some of them are very like entrepreneurial and go-getters. This is kind of that mindset in that community.
You know, I listened to, I can't remember who said this. You know, it might have been on the Wadcast podcast, and Eddie Ift, he's a stand-up comedian. If anybody listening to this show listens to that show, I highly recommend go and check it out on iTunes. But Eddie Ift is on that show. He's a stand-up comedian, and most of what he does on that show is like pretty just, you know, goofy, funny stuff. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it was him. One of the episodes, he talked about how, you know, your CrossFit gym is a great place to meet people because it takes a certain type of personality to be a CrossFitter, right? You know, you push yourself to the limits in the gym. And so by nature, I think a lot of the people that do CrossFit and are serious about CrossFit are just really good at whatever else they do. And on this particular episode, it just really struck me as being spot on, because he was saying, you know, if you have a plumber in your gym, that dude's probably the best freaking plumber out there. And if you have a, you know, whatever else, like a painter, like that dude's probably so passionate about painting. And so I think you're right on spot with that, you know?
That's true. I remember one of my gyms that I was a part of, CrossFit Chino Hills. One of the guys was a construction worker, and he was like one of the best in his industry, you know. And he would do other things, like he would create the rack to hold the medicine balls or dog sleds. You know, he amazing with metal. So yeah, man, the people in this community are amazing.
So going back to kind of the books and the documentaries and the masterminds and stuff like that, do you feel like there was any one thing in the very beginning, or maybe even in the middle of your journey, that just had like the biggest impact on you? And I feel like I'm a broken record here, because on many shows I've talked about a book that changed my life quite a bit called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And for me, that was like, you know, just a turning point, and everything else after that seemed to help me so much more because that book had like sunk in so much. So I'm curious, do you have any books or maybe a seminar that you went to that really just stuck with you and helped kind of everything else come into place?
You know, I remember seeing one of your posts before, and it reminds me of I think we have more similar journeys than I originally thought. Because like one of the books that you said that helped change your life was The Game. Yeah. And going back to that, was the reason I read that book was because I went through a breakup as well. Okay. It was a long-term relationship, and ended up being the best thing in my life to like kind of to start my journey onto like personal development and finding ways to better myself. And yeah. I read that book that I saw, and was like amazed at how like the average guy can be like, you know, this amazing like pickup artist.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in listeners real quick, just in case anybody's lost or confused right now. So I wrote a blog post on my personal blog a couple years ago about how 2 books changed my life. And since then, since I started the podcast, I've actually kind of reread that blog post as a podcast interim episode. I don't remember the number of it offhand, but you can go check it out on iTunes. Just search for 2 books that changed my life through the show or the show's website. Anyways, so for me, like I said, I did have that breakup, and one of the first things I did was read The Game, because people told me about this book where, these guys learned how to pick up women, and I thought, I don't have a girlfriend anymore, and I've been out of the game for a while, and I need to figure this out. And but what really got me with that book was not, how to pick up women. It was the fact that if you want to learn something, you can go out and do it and learn it and change your life for the better.
Yeah.
And so it was the underlying principle in that book for me that really had an impact on my life. And because I read that book, I was like, okay, this guy learned how to pick up women. He sought it out and figured out how to do it. I want to learn how to make money and be more successful in life in all these different regions. So if that's what I want to do, there's going to be books or resources or other things out there that can help me do that. And so because of that, that's when I picked up Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And that was the big springboard for my financial journey, for my kind of personal development journey, those type of things.
Sure, yeah. I think I got the same things out of it. Is like just the idea that if you want to be great at something, you could learn how to do it.
Yeah. Train
yourself how to do it. So, yeah, that's
yeah. And actually, I remember a big kind of mindset shift for me was I remember very distinctly. I was at a car wash in the town that I first moved to in Southern California. It was a little town called Tustin, right by the office that I worked at. I was at a car wash. I picked up this little newspaper type book or whatever that had these homes for sale in the area. And I started looking through it, and coming from a small town in Louisiana where the homes aren't nearly as expensive, I'm looking through this and I'm like, holy shit, like how do you ever afford to buy a house out here? Like I just got a full-time job and I'm, fresh out of college making $33,000 a year. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to buy a house. And after reading that book and kind of changing my mindset, I went from how the hell do you do this to like, oh wait, no, how do you do this? Like other people do it and there's a way and I just need to figure out how. And
which one was it, The Game or The Millionaire Mind?
The Millionaire Mind one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, of course I figured out how, and now I own a house or a condo, whatever.
That's awesome.
So definitely mindset shift is something that can change your life,
For sure, man.
So moving along a little bit, switching a little bit to business, I looked at your LinkedIn page kind of while doing homework for here, and it says something about you owning a froyo shop.
Yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit.
So back, I think it was 2010, a bunch of friends of mine from high school decided to open up a frozen yogurt shop in Fresno. And
which, by the way, is not where we're at and not where you live currently. It's several hours away.
Yeah, it's in Central California. We're here now in Southern California, but we decided to open a shop, and it was quite a journey. that basically was a big learning experience. Like that was where I paid my business tuition and learning about business, like the real shit that goes on in business.
Right. Yeah. So is that shop still open? Are you still a part of that?
It's closed now.
Okay.
But, I learned so much from it. We owned it for about two and a half years or so. And having that kind of those learnings helped me to start Wad Shop. And, I don't regret it. It's an amazing experience to learn ins and outs of business and basically how to run your own business from start to finish. So like we started with a space that had nothing in it and just growing it.
And I assume that helped you deal with partnerships and stuff too, if you did it with people like from the beginning, right?
Yeah. I mean, we had 3 partners, or I had 3 partners. So it was, I think, my opinion for a small yogurt shop is a little too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. But
and so why did you guys end up closing that down?
It was just we went into it with the wrong mindset. It was like, all right, this is our way to at least I went in it to the wrong mindset. I was like, all right, this is my way to escape the employment, and it was just another job, right? It was just like a lower paying, more hours job.
Okay. So let me get this straight. You originally thought that you could just go in and own a business and start making money and not have to work like you were.
Exactly.
But what you found was that it became the exact same thing. But through the process, you learned how to build a business. So that's the value that you took out of it, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning. There's so much learnings every day from
of course,
from my business now.
Yep. So once that closed down, walk me through the timeline of when you decided to kind of leave behind that employee type position officially and start Wad Shop.
Well, yeah. Once I left that, I moved to Southern California to live with my now fiance, and we. I went back to work. I went back to doing SEO for a small marketing firm, and it was at that point I just working for that business. I learned a lot, but at the same time, I felt that not that it was below me, but I felt like I was meant for more. What kind of sparked that off was I went to a Tony Robbins event, my first one in LA, and that was with Oprah happened to be at that that event. So she meant to be there for a couple hours, but she ended up being there for the whole day. She did the whole fire walk with everybody as well. But that was quite an experience, and I ended up getting a coach at that point from that event, and
like a life coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, yeah. And from that coach, I was like, yeah, I have this idea for this business, and I think it could really take off. Nobody's really doing it right now. I'm gonna call it wadstore.com, and he ended up asking me, oh, why do you think you can do it? And I had no answer for him. I was like, I couldn't defend myself, and just the fact that I felt like I couldn't defend my own dream pissed me off. So that's when I went at it. I was like, man, what? I stepped out of that conversation, that coaching call, like, why could I not, like, upset with myself, basically. And from there, I just started working like mad. I was working like 20 hours a day, building the website, and ended up putting. I was still in debt from the frozen yogurt shop, so I ended up putting a bunch of stuff on my credit card, like things I think would sell online, and then I put it on the website. And so April 2012 is when I first put up the website, and the first month I made $40.
Wow.
And I was like, awesome, it works,
So that was actually a good thing. Like, you were excited by that. I was excited. Not disappointed.
Yeah, I was excited. People were finding me based on the online marketing things I learned before. And prior to that, I was doing online marketing for a small business, so I learned a lot of stuff along the way. But yeah, I built the website, made $40 in April. 7 months later, still in that 600 square foot apartment where I started the business, I made $4,000 in one day.
Wow.
And I was still in the little apartment. I was like taking pictures and like, oh man, I tell my fiance, I was like, hey, we should look at this like right now, because someday we're gonna get out of here and be like, oh man, remember back in the day we were in this cramped apartment with all this shit all over the place. Yeah. I got pictures. It's
so all your inventory was in this small apartment.
Yeah.
And you were shooting the photos for the web product stuff on the site. And
exactly.
Wow. So why an online shop? I mean, out of all the other types of businesses out there, why an online store? Was it because you just had this, kind of programming and SEO type background? Or was it more of like you saw a void in the industry and you just knew that you could fill that void?
I'd say both. It allowed me to take my passion for CrossFit and my passion for business and bring them all together. And I had the knowledge and know-how from both places, being a CrossFit trainer at the time, and then over 10 years of online marketing and just general marketing experience that I had along the years. And I basically put them together and created the baby, the business baby.
I know for some people, actually myself included, because I worked within the BMX industry for a long time, which was, a big passion of mine. I sort of got burnt out on that. Do you see yourself, losing sight of the CrossFit, passion or love, or can you foresee that in the future? Or do you feel like, the act of doing CrossFit and the reasons why you love it is like almost so separated from your business now? Like, even though it's the same thing, like when you come in here, you're not like lifting weights, obviously you're doing business,
Right. I felt the same thing, man. Like I've gone through the ups and downs, the emotional ups and downs of, I've fallen in love with CrossFit, and at the same time, throughout the years, I've had times where I'm like, man, this is some of the stuff that people are doing could be different, you know. So
and that, I think that's passion though, because
sure,
if you're looking, exactly, like if you're looking at it as like you're being annoyed by something, it's because you care about it, right?
Yeah, that's true, man.
So yeah, talk to me a little bit more about kind of that decision of like, you know, why that business? Like, what was that conversation like in your head when you were like, okay, I want to open an online store that sells the products of a bunch of different companies, as opposed to make my own products or XYZ other company?
Right. I chose it because I knew it would work, and when I talked about it with other people, some people were doubtful. I brought it up with some individuals, and they were like, why would someone want to buy something from a different site as opposed to because at the time, like, the only way to get say a branded product that was related to CrossFit was to go on the brand site,
right?
And there wasn't really a place to buy everything. And my experience in the car industry before, back when Fast and Furious 1 first came out, I just knew how to basically work a e-commerce site, and I learned a lot about SEO throughout the years. And I was like, hey, I know I can get found for certain key terms, and so yeah, immediately we got found for a lot of key terms, and that's what started the business.
Cool.
Is great SEO.
So at that time, you said this was what year did you say it was? 2012. 2012. Okay. So were there other competition websites? Like, were there anybody else doing this at all?
There was, yeah. Rogue Fitness was already existed. Obviously, they've been creating equipment for years. Again, Faster was there as well. They were the two biggest companies that were doing this. But I felt like they were more focused on pushing their brands,
right?
And not really bringing other brands that people knew and loved to the forefront. And again, they weren't kind of creating a hub for all the best brands, like strength wraps. You know, I know that one of my ideas was, all right, people might like different colored athletic tape, so I bought a bunch of different colored athletic tape, and nobody else was doing that. And so I collected all these things and was like, hey, I want to create this one-stop shop for everything CrossFit. And so
tell me about the challenges you face, like with, you know, competition out there. I know at this point other competitor type websites have come up. Obviously, you just mentioned Rogue and again Faster. So what type of challenges do you see with your competition, and how do you separate yourself from that?
Sure, yeah. As soon as WOD Shop came out, other competitors started launching, like WOD Superstore now. There's WOD Outlet. There's Box Basics. There's a bunch of other places you can get stuff from now. I mean, that's what happens, right? But for us, it's always been about how can we add more value to people than anyone else. And so we're looking for ways to be like a hub for people in other ways. And so whether it's information that's very valuable to people, because information's out there, right? People are flooded with information, right? People are making podcasts, awesome podcasts, but it's like, how do you separate yourself from everybody else? They're not looking for more information. I think they're looking for wisdom. They're looking for those insights, and that other people aren't providing. So I think if we can provide just that much more value, that much more insights, that much more wisdom to people, I think that'll help us stand out, and just ultimately help people live better lives through fitness. And that was the ultimate goal with WOD Shop, is, I think I can help a lot of people with it.
And that's actually a good point that I wanted to bring up. So your website, you list core values on your website, which, for an online retail type place, almost seemed like, why do they have this? You know what I mean? So why is it important for you to sort of list those core values and tell people what you're all about?
I think it's important for us to have values because those are kind of our guiding light, you could say, to how we do business every day, or how we conduct ourselves. So whether it's doing the best for the customer, or you know, trying to figure out ways to be better ourselves, so that we can help others better, then I think it's important for us to stand for something.
So also on your site, I was doing a little research, kind of poking around. You have an extremely generous return policy, like kind of almost a crazy one. 365 days, right? I mean, you basically say that if somebody doesn't like something, they have a whole year to return it. Explain that decision, because, I mean, like I said, I think that's very generous and pretty uncommon.
Yeah, I think that, we've all bought something we weren't happy with. And so I put that in place because I thought that, if down the line you're not happy with the product, or you just decide it's not for you, then you should be able to get your money back. So yeah, I put that in place, and it's not that often that people come back like 8 months down the line,
right,
and want to return something.
Yeah. So in the shop, has there been anything that have sold really well that maybe surprised you? Something that you've brought on, it's like, maybe this isn't going to do so good, and then you're just like blown away by the response to it?
Sure, yeah. One of the products that has been kind of integral in our lineup and product offering is the product that we brought on, the jaw hand grips. They're like basically cloth hand grips, handmade in Australia. And when I first saw these, I was like, this is different. And basically they're made out of cloth, and they protect your hands from pull-ups, from ripping, from a lot of bar work that we all do as CrossFitters, right? Our hands are like our most used tool. Yeah. But this product surprised me in how well people have received it. And since we brought it on, we've become one of the major distributors here in the U.S. and people know us for having it all the time at the games.
Right on. So kind of going back to more specific business questions, at what point in the business did you kind of move out of the apartment and having to start hire people and really starting to grow? And I'm kind of asking this because I'm always interested in seeing where people start to bring on others to help them out, because that's something that I sort of have a little trouble with, of like releasing some of that control. Like you started something, all the working parts of it, you're really good at everything, but at some point there's either going to be somebody that has to take work off your hands because it's too much, or you just can't do it anymore because of time, or they're just better than you at it. So what was that process like of getting to that point where you had to bring on other people to help you out?
Sure. First thing I did was look into hiring a VA, a virtual assistant. So you can.
And what service did you use to do that?
I think what I used first was 123 Employee.
Okay.
And it worked, but wasn't great. It was one of those things that I think I myself as a manager could have been better at, kind of offloading or creating certain processes in place, so that it's like, hey, take this process and just run with it after you go over it with them. But it was a challenge for me because I hadn't managed people in that way and wasn't quite sure of my own processes at the time, because I had so many things going on, everything I was doing myself. I'm sure you, just like you are. And I ended up figuring out ways other people can help me in other areas of the business. So like first person hired was to help with the shipping, and that took me away from like the first part of the day where I would pack and ship the orders and take care of the customers over the phone. So our time is limited, you can only do so much, and the more I found that more we could systematize stuff. I'm using a program now called Suite Process, and that allows me to create these, standard operating procedures so that I could pass it along to someone else. And it's all there in stone, and just makes the business more valuable in the end, right? Because you have everything in place. So,
was it difficult for you to start, offloading some of that work? And
yeah, definitely. I think it's difficult for any entrepreneur to once they've mastered something, like be able to trust someone to do it.
Right.
It's a challenge, yeah, for sure. Because we were always thinking, oh, they can't do it as good as us. But in one of my mastermind groups, he's Armand, one of the coaches. He's like, if someone else can do it as good as you, about 70% as good as you, then you should be able to offload it. And it won't be perfect, but at least your time isn't spent doing those things.
Right.
So,
Right. Interesting. So another kind of specific business question. Has there been any marketing strategy that you've kind of come across or found that is the most successful with the least amount of time or resources or effort on your part?
For us, it's always been SEO, because just because innately I've known how to get us found on Google for certain things, and it's carried over throughout the years. But I think the things that the shortcuts end up not working out in the long term. And I've worked for an SEO company that we did shortcuts, and it's one of those things that over the long haul won't get you those long term customers. It'll work in the immediate future, but in the long term, will it keep people coming back? Probably not.
Yeah. That almost sounds like it could be just a good analogy for life in general, and not just online marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
The shortcuts aren't going to pay off in the long haul. I like that. So as many people know, and as you know, I came from the BMX industry, and within that industry, it's another kind of niche industry, just like CrossFit. And in that industry, there was never really any official numbers of how many participants or how many people did the sport of BMX, and that was always kind of an ongoing thing within the industry of how big is our market actually. So I'm curious, do you guys have kind of a way to figure out how big the market is within CrossFit? And then sort of as a follow-up, as being a niche industry, and CrossFit being your main focus, do you try to find some overlap to cater to other people out there that maybe don't do CrossFit that still would want to buy the products on your website?
Sure. I think so. To answer your first question, was like, how do we kind of calculate how big our industry is? I think one of the great indicators is how many CrossFit gyms there are, and I think it's now 11,000 or so worldwide. And assuming maybe like anywhere from, I've seen numbers of people in a CrossFit gym go from 40 to 600, which is insane to me. So I would say, like, taking an average of that, however many go to a gym, and then from there, maybe estimating people who just kind of are into it, do it on their own time. But that's kind of a good indication, like kind of seeing how many boxes are being built.
Right.
And I'm sorry, your second question was
so
overlap with other industries.
Right.
One of the people in my group owns mudgear.com, one of my mastermind groups, and
which is what kind of website is that?
They do gear for mud runs.
Okay. Yep.
So like Spartan Race, the Gladiator, Rock and Run, and I think there's a crossover between CrossFit and those types of sports. But as far as our niche, we primarily focused on CrossFit. I know a lot of the products that we carry over to other sports, obviously, right? Compression gear. My vision is to have basically a one-stop shop for everything fitness over time, and I still feel like there's not really one place where people go for fitness gear. I mean, bodybuilding.com has supplements down, right? And they've created quite an amazing community. They're one of our role models. But I don't feel like there's one place for gear for fitness in general where they kind of bring everything together.
Yeah.
So
and this is kind of backtracking a little bit, but it is interesting that nobody was really doing that, because you said, within the CrossFit world, people would have to go to that brand's website if they wanted that brand's product. And again, coming from my BMX background, and with bikes, BMX is a bike, so most people go to a bike shop. And of course, bike shops have everything. And that carried over to the online space pretty early on. So I grew up like, my earliest days and earliest memories were, I can't get a ride to the shop, but I can look through this catalog and circle what I want, And so I was very familiar with the idea of one place having everything you could ever need, And it's interesting that, this industry of CrossFit didn't really have that. And so it's cool that you were kind of able to see that hole and try to fill it, Totally switching topics and a little bit out of the blue here. When you're here at the office working, is there any kind of specific music you like to listen to while you work?
I think I listen to a lot of EDM.
Yeah.
Because it's fast paced. It keeps my energy going.
Yep.
Vanessa over here likes to listen to some hip hop and R&B. But I listen to everything.
Okay. So when you have on EDM, is that through Spotify or Pandora type thing, or do you have like certain artists that you like?
Spotify,
put on?
yeah. I'll put on like a radio on Alesso or any of those EDM artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty similar. I don't know how I found this, but in as far back as college, there's an iTunes radio station that I somehow found called Digitally Imported, and it's Vocal Trance. Oh. And for whatever reason, that is perfect background music for me. And I usually don't listen to music when I work, but when I do, I just put on that radio station that I've had bookmarked for as many years as I can remember. And I think, like you said, it's kind of fast-paced. It keeps you upbeat. It keeps you in a good mood. But also, I feel like because it doesn't have really lyrics that you have to pay attention to, it doesn't like let your mind trail off and think about the lyrics,
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of my thinking too, is like I think the words in songs kind of distract me, so
right.
I don't want to have to think about that.
Yeah. So you've got the business here that you're running. You said you've got a fiance, so obviously that relationship's important to you, and it seems like you're still pretty serious about your training and working out and being in a certain shape. So can you give me kind of specific ways about how you manage your time and how you delegate time for the business and time to work out and stuff like that?
I could be better at it, but right now I'm kind of focused on managing my time through results as opposed to like a to-do, just a to-do list. Because I've noticed that when I create to-do lists, that list will never fucking end, right? Like you can create a to-do list and then it's like a monster, it'll just keep growing up again because there's an endless amount of things we can do.
Right.
But I've noticed when I've been results focused, focused on my purpose and why I want those results, and then figuring out what to do, that's been key in helping me grow my business and getting those results. So I kind of learned the system through Tony Robbins. It's his time management system.
Mm-hmm. You got to elaborate on that. I'm really curious. I've never heard someone talk about this, and I think I'm starting to get what you're saying. But explain that results based mentality.
So the system is basically he calls it RPM, results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. Mm-hmm. Or another way to call it is like a OPA, I think he calls it. It's like outcome, purpose, action. Mm-hmm. So it's basically like figure out what you want to accomplish first. Mm-hmm. It's like, what is your specific goal? Like you come up with this, what they call a SMART goal, right? It's like specific, measurable, and all that stuff. It's like, all right, I want to make X amount of dollars by this date. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you come up with your list of why, your purpose for achieving that. And this should be fueled by emotion, because that the more reasons you can create and the more emotion you can bring out of that will actually fuel you to go towards that goal. Because it's basically it's when times are hard, you go back to the reasons why you're pursuing that goal. So whether it's you're trying to make an X amount of dollars so you can take care of your family, buy a home for your mom or something like that, it's those emotional things basically will push you forward when you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this or something like that. So
how does that play into you actually, splitting your time between like, okay, I'm going to go to the office for this amount of time, or I'm going to do this extra work at home on the business versus I'm going to go to the gym for this amount of hours to get these results. Like, break down how that results focused plan is breaking up your time.
Basically, so now from there, I come up with a list of things to do, and those lists of things to do, I prioritize by what I think would give me the most impact.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only do certain amount of things in a day, right? Like we all can. We only have a certain amount of time, but I'll focus on that specific result for a certain amount of time for that allotted time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll allot certain amounts of time specifically for certain results.
Mm-hmm.
So say I'm here in the office and I'm trying to get certain things done. I'll focus on this, and this result for the time I'm here, and then I'll have another outcome or something when I get home to my fiance. Maybe it's maybe my outcome is I want to make her feel loved and appreciated, and so I always try to focus on the specific result I'm going after.
Yeah, very cool. And another thing that's going to be completely switching gears here.
Yeah.
Are you involved with Rush Club at all right now? I remember us talking about that very briefly. And if not, maybe this question is just a dead end. But
yeah, I've worked with AJ Richards and Stacy Snyder. They're friends of mine, and Rush Club's. Yeah, I've helped them out a little bit, and it's an awesome event.
Yeah, so to fill in people, just tell our listeners a little bit of what that is and what your involvement is exactly.
Sure, it's basically, you could call it kind of like the UFC of functional fitness. So they bring two competitors to come in and basically duel it out in a fitness competition. They go for time or for reps or something, but it's all in like it's a awesome show, and you go in and you watch these two awesome competitors duel it out, and they got the smoke and the announcer out there. It's a really cool event.
So and for people listening, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of similar to the open announcements for the CrossFit Open, where sort of a dark room, pretty dramatic lighting, like cool stage set. In Rush Club, they're actually kind of up on a stage, so elevated like a boxing ring or a wrestling ring almost. And it seems super, super cool. And where can they go to learn about that? Rushclub.com maybe? Or
it's Rush Club Nation.
Rushclubnation.com. I'll link to that in the show notes. But so what is your involvement exactly? And when can we start to see that blowing up? Because it seems like a really cool idea that can definitely go places.
I've helped them get sponsors because we're involved with our vendors. I've helped kind of introduce them to certain sponsors. To get the event going. But I'd love to see that event come here to California. I know they're Arizona based right now, but I'd love to see that the event here in California. We've seeing our top competitors here go after it. But they've sent big competitors like John Pera, Camille, and Josh Bridges, and Elizabeth Akinwale, Noah Olson, all them to Arizona to head off against other competitors.
Yeah. We are going to start wrapping things up. I've got a section that I call Quick Hits, which is questions that I typically ask all my guests, pretty much the same set of questions. And you can answer them quickly, or if you want to take a little longer, that's fine as well. And this is actually one that's not on my normal list, and it's a little bit off topic. But I want to know, who is your biggest CrossFit crush?
Oh, boy.
And of course, you have a fiance. I'm sure she's beautiful and you love her very much. And this has nothing to do with her, but everybody's got somebody within this functional fitness world that
we were just talking about this
they just think is either really cute or they're just super into him for some reason or another.
Let's see. I'm really liking. I think Kenny Leverage is an awesome guy. He's a good-looking dude, man.
Oh, excuse me. That is an answer that I was not expecting. All right, so CrossFit crush would be
it's that beard.
Kenny Leverage. All right, there we go. moving right along into the more normal quick hits. How do you decompress? You know, you've got a business. Obviously, there's a lot on your plate and a lot on your mind. When you're trying to just unwind, how do you decompress?
Man, I think it's CrossFit and fitness. You know, being able to kind of to let all the emotions out through physical means has been my way of decompressing. Interesting.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do say that, but for me, I need to decompress from the fitness. You know, like
fitness, yeah.
A lot of times I'm so focused on my goals in the gym and what I want to do in there. And obviously the physical aspect of it, like I really need like an outside time aside from that to decompress. So that's interesting. So if there was a movie made about your life, what would be the obstacle that you had to overcome in order to achieve your success or to be the person you are today?
I think, I don't know why Total Recall comes to mind because I'm thinking about, that was a cool movie. But I think the biggest obstacle for actually anyone is themselves, you know. I think that's why I'm always pursuing personal development, and the only thing that's going to keep me away from my goals and my dreams is myself, you know. I don't think that any outside influence will have a more impact on it than me. So it's really just figuring out how to master my habits and just being better every single day, no matter how big or small.
Yeah, very cool. Have you had any mentors throughout your life? And I know that we've talked about some mastermind groups and you know, authors and speakers and stuff that you like. Have you had anybody that's a little bit more personal and that you kind of, you know, seek a mentorship from?
More recently, I have a coach. His name's Arman Sadeghi. He's part of the Titanium mastermind group I was mentioning. He's holding an event here in Southern California. He's basically this amazing business guy. He's mastered his relationships with his family and friends, and he's been a great mentor of mine, and invite people to come out and check out his event. I think his website is titaniumsuccess.com, and basically he's helped me along the way and help coach me and get me on the right path.
Cool. So I'm going to deviate from the quick hits real quick and just ask you a little bit more about the life coaching kind of thing, because that's something I've never experienced myself. I know other people have sort of used that. How did you find this life coach, and what service does he offer you, and what does that look like? Is that like, you know, one phone call per week or per month or a couple emails or in-person meetings?
Well, he's the head of our business mastermind group. We call it like a board of directors kind of thing. And basically we do a coaching call one-on-one every month or so. And with for the coaching part of it, I think it's just important to have someone on the outside looking in, seeing things that you don't. I think it's been said, like with a coach, that they don't necessarily have to be better than you. In fact, if you look at Greg Glassman, he's not like the best CrossFitter in the world, right?
Of course.
So coaches just have to see things that you don't. And I think that's the important aspect of coaching, is you don't necessarily see them as like the best at what you're trying to do, but they just got to be the best at helping you try to get to where you want to be.
Right. So what does that look like when you're speaking with him on a regular basis? Is that in person? Is that over the phone? What's the frequency?
We talk as a group about once a week, and then one-on-one once a month. And you know, he's open to me calling him and asking certain questions specifically. But it's just we talk pretty regularly.
Cool. When do you feel like you get hit by inspiration or ideas the most?
When I'm open to them, when I'm looking for them.
Is that in a specific place or a time?
I think when I'm out of my own head. I think I get into my own head a lot and get worried about the problems or the challenges, and when I focus on that, then it takes me out of the possibilities that are out there, and
And is there a specific place, like, at the beach or in the car or in the shower or anywhere else that this is kind of conducive to you getting out of your head?
Sure. Like when I like to meditate in the mornings. That's definitely helped me out to calm my mind, just to get away from it all and just be more centered.
Yeah. What does your meditation process look like, or practice?
So I'm kind of refining my morning ritual right now. This is good timing, but it's basically drinking first thing when I get up, drinking 2 glasses of water, getting my body moving and going, doing some meditation, gratitude, going through all the motions that I want to experience. Because one of the things that Tony Robbins says is life is emotion. Then I go through still working into my habits, but my goal is to end up doing my workout at the end of that whole ritual, so that I can start my day energized and ready to take it on.
So when you meditate, is that through a guided app, or is that totally on your own? Is it in the living room on the floor? Is it in the bedroom on a chair? Like, paint me a picture.
I've done both. I've done this Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey meditation app that they have. I've done just sitting there on the floor, just listening to my breath. I've done yoga. I love yoga. And different things. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So last but certainly not least, I'm going to wrap this up with a final question. Do you have a favorite quote or maybe a favorite piece of advice anyone's ever given you?
One of the things that Tony Robbins says is, there's always a way if you're committed. And I like that, because that goes back to what we were talking about. That's one of the things that kind of changed our mindset, is like we figured out a way to be committed towards something, or figure out a way that realize it's possible. So
cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Awesome. So we're going to end there. Please tell people where they can find you. Obviously, wadshop.com. We're going to have all these links on the show notes at theexpansionprojectpodcast.com. But if they want to connect with you personally anywhere else, where can they find you?
They can check me out on Facebook, Instagram. It's facebook.com/Jerry Lamigo, or Instagram, that's at Jerry Lamigo.
Cool. And of course, you guys can follow me on my social networks. All of them are just at FatTonyBMX. And please check out the show's website at theexpansionprojectpodcast.com. On each episode, we have links to the things that we talk about, whether it be books or the mastermind groups. Like, we'll have links to that. Previous blog posts or podcast episodes that we mentioned, I'll link to those as well. So check that out. And while you're there on the site, on the right-hand side of the page, there's going to be a few affiliate links, so you guys can go buy some stuff from there and help out the show. Of course, like I said in the beginning, I would love it if you shared the show with a friend, post it on your Facebook, tweet about it. Just help get the word out there any way you can. That would really help us out. And while you're at it, subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss any of the episodes. And while you're on iTunes, click 5 stars and leave us a review, and I'll continue to read some of the best reviews on the show. So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Thanks for having me, man.